Welcome to the RV Game Changer Show with Uncle Bernie. If you're interested in RVs as a consumer, service provider, or as a manufacturer of RVs, this show is for you. Here we talk to RV experts, RV manufacturers, lifestyle influencers, service providers, charitable organizations, and component providers with a sole purpose to make RVing more fun and exciting and easier for you and your family. Please subscribe to RV Game Changer with Uncle Bernie on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Of course, find us by searching at RV Game Changer on YouTube. Let's see what we can do to make your life better this week on RV Game Changer. Welcome to another episode of RV Game Changer. Today, we have a very special guest who will help RVers get just about all the Wi-Fi they'll ever need at a very reasonable price. Tony ColaPietro is a 4-time Telly Award winner, 8-time Emmy nominated, and ProMax BDA Silver winning producer and entrepreneur. Tony is also an award-winning director of photography and editor for his advertising work, founder of Stonegate Studios, and what we're going to be talking about today is his company, Pulse Cellular. Tony, welcome to RV Game Changer.
Thank you, Bernie. Really appreciate you having me.
Oh, that's great. As I read over all these things, I'm saying to myself, wow, that's a lot of accolades. I didn't realize they had such a prolific television production career. Now, before we get into the features and benefits of Pulse Cellular, can you tell us a little bit about your history in TV?
Sure. I actually, before I got into TV, it's always weird talking about yourself. But I guess it makes sense to kind of understand how we got to where we're at. So
Right.
I was actually about 11 years at Pratt & Whitney, computer support. So I worked in aerospace for about 11 years, and what was very helpful about that, and why a lot of times I feel like that's the starting point, was that I learned a lot about technical systems, connecting systems, and working with support and legacy systems and operating systems, and I was replacing computers in jet engine cells where they would test these jet engines. It was really a great place to work for me at the time. And then I kind of transitioned. I was getting into video. We may touch on it, but I was a musician, so I was introduced to a video production company that was actually filming a music video for my band at the time.
Oh, okay.
And
MTV stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and it was an opportunity. I saw an opportunity. I talked to the owner of the company, and it was something I was like, oh, I've always been interested in this, but I thought you had to be in New York or LA to even touch on this. And
Right.
so this guy kind of took me under his wing for a few years. I worked with him, and then an opportunity to move over to a Fox affiliate in Connecticut was a possibility. So I was at Fox 61 for about 12 years as a senior producer.
What kind of projects did you work on there?
So luckily is no news. I didn't touch any news whatsoever. The only thing I did do was I think that's why I'm always a very upbeat. I feel upbeat and positive in most ways. I never had to touch on news. I didn't have to worry about somebody just had a house fire and I have to put a microphone in their face. So how do you feel? You just lost your house. I was always positive programming or commercial marketing. So I was helping companies with their brand messaging. I was helping the station we were working at. I would work with the creative team, and we would put together the brand marketing for the station. So it was an awesome experience. I loved all the people I worked with. It was fantastic. A producer that was bankrolling the film that we were working on, and he had a power company, fantastic person, Dave Purcell, and I worked under him for a little bit, and he started a company called MadStar Mobile, which was a Sprint MVNO. And so we were selling Sprint mobile service, and I really loved the business. And so I became the marketing director, kind of worked with him. One of our Emmy nominations was actually for a commercial of where I had a friend that was a Trump impersonator. He also impersonated Dr. Phil, Dr. Evil, Guy Fieri, all in one commercial. It was really
my goodness,
Austin funny. Powers. It was so great. But then actually Trump won soon after. That was his first round. So this is back in I think it was 2016. I was working with the company, or 2015, and we were the first company to accept Bitcoin as a payment. So I just had my hands were touching on a lot of different things, and we're always trying to save people money, but the company was really positioned towards the low end market of just more economical plans, but they weren't the fastest speeds. We wanted to focus more on high end, not luxury, but like really I wanted to find the things that were for people that were looking for the best service available, but still at a great price. It's one of the first companies to do an unlimited plan, and you could
Right.
almost with cable pick which bandwidth levels you wanted, which was a unique thing that we had at the time. And but as we got closer to I think it was 2018 when Pulse Cellular was founded, my focus was to really focus on the best access possible for our customers. And then we were looking into mobile internet, but mobile internet wasn't really a viable solution at the time. So we dabbled in it in 2018, 2019, and then we kind of pulled back on it because it just wasn't where it needed to be. And once 3G and 2G was really off the market, and it was just 4G and 5G in 2020, and then COVID, of course, hit. And that's when there's a big change in what was available. And then we became a source for a lot of people to help them stay connected when people were out of work or they were having to stay home. And at a point in time, we had individual solutions with each individual network, which we still do. We didn't have the multi-network thing that we have today. Could advertise, and then I built a company called Stonegate Studios, which is the sister company of Pulse Cellular that helps us with all our marketing materials. So
Yeah, I can have a little bit of fun and get the word out at the same time. It's really important. But more importantly, Pulse Cellular sounds like they're really working towards giving great value to their customers, and RVers are really a unique niche when it comes to that. And a lot of folks are living on very limited income because they're living full time in their RV. They're not able to make the same kind of income that they did while they were working, full time at a 9 to 5. But they still want to have great access to internet, whether they're providing, content and they're making this like a video kind of career out of it,
mhm.
or they're out like still working part-time, doing some consulting work for a firm or whatever it may be, and they need that good, true, secure access to Wi-Fi. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about how Pulse Cellular, some of the products they provide, and I can pull up your website to do that if you'd like.
Oh, sure. So we got some really great customers too, and we're very fortunate. We have some great customers that will give us feedback and let us know how certain devices work with each individual network. And
Okay.
we can always guide you through the selection process. What I would always say is just go to sales@pulsecellular.com and email us, or you can go through our website. We want to sell you the right solution. We don't want to sell you a solution that's the wrong thing. We want to make sure you're getting what's right for you. And if it's not, we'll do whatever we can to put you into the right solution, because there's not always a magic bullet that's going to fix everything. Sometimes if you have a device already, some people will already have a device that they use and love, and we can support this. We can give you a SIM card plan. This is actually, we'll take 2 SIM cards, so you could put 2 different networks into this device. It's a 5G category 20. So this gets, I believe it's 4 or 5 signals from the tower, or it gets 5G. It's amazing, but these are very expensive. This is now reduced down to $1,000 device. Not everybody's got the means to do something like that. So we're always looking for, if you have that device, we can support it. We've slowly really shifted towards eSIM. So we still support all those legacy services and legacy options. But if you're in a position where you don't have a device, you're brand new to the market, you're getting into it at a really awesome time, because we have these eSIM solutions where you have so many more options, and it fits today's lifestyle much better in my view. And we love these because they're much easier to support, and they're just they seem to perform really well for our customers.
Yeah, so tell us what eSIM means.
So the eSIM, there's there's 2 terms that kind of get thrown around. There's eSIM, so there's electronic SIM, and then
Right.
there's vSIM, which is virtual SIM. Exactly the same thing. The virtual SIM is more of like a branded name that I believe I'm not sure if SEMO technically owns that, but I believe it's something more that they use. So eSIM is more the standard that's used across the board. And it's the same thing. It's just it's the fact that you don't need a physical SIM card. We don't have to send you a SIM card in the mail when you want to activate service. Once you have one of our devices, we actually just activate the device remotely. So you could literally be on the road, on your way to your destination, and go, oh my God, we forgot to activate our device. And we can have you, if you once, as soon as we get your information in the system, we can have you up and running in about 15 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, I have an experience with that same device that we are just looking at. And yes, it was a very easy transition into getting that activated. I think it was much less than 15 minutes, to be honest with you. But there's something unique about this where not only does it not require a SIM card, but it actually can accept, and take the strongest signal from
Yes.
any one of a few different providers, correct?
That's the beauty of the eSIM devices that we offer, is that they are multi-network. So we can literally, you just drive, you can use it while you can have it working while you drive. I would say I've done this. I've actually had my girlfriend doing a Zoom call while I was driving. We don't suggest anybody drive and use their internet. So, yeah, but the disclaimer there. But you would say it works just like a cell
The
phone.
passenger, yeah.
The passenger, yes, yes. So it depends on which kind of vehicle you have. Some people will could be working in a motor coach or something like that while they're driving. So you could literally have it activated. It typically stays with one network until it completely drops off. If you're in an area where you hit a dead zone, it will then look just like your cell phone, look for the next strongest signal, and it may be another network. So it'll just jump over to whichever network's available. It typically stays with that network unless that network is just weak or unavailable. Um, there's also times when we have people will get to a campsite and there's free Wi-Fi. This is one thing that we go to a lot of the RV shows in the Northeast. And one thing that we were made aware of a few years ago is that a lot of campgrounds will provide free Wi-Fi, but they don't allow streaming. So
And they're not secure.
that's a big thing too. Yeah, it's not secure. So with cellular, it's encrypted. You have your own personal encrypted Wi-Fi wherever you go.
And there's a lot of other things too. I mean, a lot of people still, like, they might be going in and out of their bank accounts, checking out, their investments or whatever it may be. You don't want people peeking in on that stuff.
You don't. And if somebody really knows what they're doing, you would just never know. And that's
Right.
what's pretty terrifying.
Well,
So,
there's a lot of hackers out there, and we have to be very careful where we work that we're keeping an eye on things. And
mhm.
when we're working, we can't just use the guest Wi-Fi to work. Even if we're having trouble, we have to call tech and say, "Hey, you got to fix my connection because I'm doing some potentially proprietary information or passing along customer information, in a secure fashion, and I need to have that security."
That's a great point too. And so what's nice too, just so it you can use VPN with cellular internet.
Oh,
So
good.
if you have a VPN that you're using, like Pure VPN or something like that, you can definitely use that with cellular internet. So you have your personal encrypted connection that you can use with your VPN for if you're in some instances, again, if you're working for like an insurance company, you may not have the admin rights to access something, but once it's set up and installed through you should have no problems with accessing that. So
Yeah, so if
that's
you
one
are
thing
using a secure system, like you say, just call your tech and they'll
Mhm.
be able to log you into it. And knowing that, Pulse Cellular is secure as well, it's like now double trouble for anyone who's trying to hack into that.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, that's the only thing. Depending on how locked down computers are, again, in aerospace, they were locked down right at the BIOS. So you would be able to take one of our, like a device like this, you could take it right into your office. And this is something like, again, in those situations, they probably want to approve the device, make sure everything works with their system. Once it's approved, I'm familiar with that because that's something I dealt with.
Right.
But it's something that would definitely, the VPNs, all that will work with that system.
And, when you call into Pulse Cellular, Like who do you talk to? Like, is it someone that is, well informed? You actually talk to people, right?
Yeah, there's many times you'll be talking to me directly. There's people I know by first name basis because we have some people. We do a service that we do a couple services that I don't think a lot of the other companies out there are doing. And I don't want to slam any other company because everybody has their services that they do that they fulfill and help people out with. We do something where we do like a site survey, and this is like no charge to people. And we do this. We just ask you to give us a little time. But if you give us your address, if you say you're going to a certain location, you're going to you're going to a campground, it's in upstate New York, and you're not sure where the towers are or what it is. Sometimes you can pick the spot on the campground, kind of like give us the address. We'll see where the towers are. We do what we call a site survey, and we'll let you know with each network's towers are, so that you kind of know that if you go there, you have a good chance of having good internet, because you can go some excuse me, you can go someplace where there is just no internet because there's no cell towers.
Right.
So that's the one thing with cellular. It's getting better every year, and what's great is that you're benefiting from every single network growing. So that's another
Well,
thing.
that's an amazing service, right? So while you're preparing to make a trip and you say, boy, I'm really going to need cell service, and it's kind of a shaky area, it's in the middle of nowhere or whatever it may be, they can give you a call, and you can advise them. It's like, hey, you might want to choose, site 55 through 75 as opposed to 1 through 25 or something to that effect.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we probably won't give them the site exactly, but what we'll do is we'll give us the address, and we say you can just email us an address and ask for a site survey. So if they
Yeah.
give us an address and an email, so they can call us, we can definitely do that. But and if we can't make the call, if we miss the call, leave a voicemail because it goes into our email system. Then we respond right away. Because sometimes if we're on a call, I'm on a call, or somebody else,
Yeah.
because I will flag calls myself as well. What we do is we'll give you a Google bird's eye view of map of the location. We'll give you one of each network, and so you can kind of see the campsite or the address you're at. You might be at an Airbnb, maybe you're stopping, and here's a location you're going to be. Here's where you are in Google, and here's the surrounding towers. And we just use a service with cellmapper.net. Sometimes we train people on how to do that. You can do it yourself.
Right.
It's not something you have to pay for, but it can be confusing. So we try to help our customers out as best we can. The other thing we do, and this is why we will have touch points with our customers, is we have some that are really aware of, sometimes you have a strong signal, but it might not be the fastest signal.
Right.
Sometimes you might go to one network might be the strongest signal, but everybody's on it. But if you switch to this signal, it's almost like you're on a commuter lane because less people are on it. So we have the ability to, when you go to a site, you're somewhere and if you're struggling, if you're having some streaming issues or something's not working as well as it could, we can always try another network. So if that other network is strong enough where you can get good service and there's less people on it, we can lock you to that while you're at that location. And then what we say is we'll lock you to that network. And then when you hit the road, all you got to do is email us and say, okay, this is the Smith family, and we can look you up by your email. So you just say, this is so and so. We're back on the road. You can put us back on open networks. And when we put you on open networks, that's when your device looks for all of them. So
Well, that's absolutely fascinating because I didn't realize that but it makes sense that even the strongest signal has a limited bandwidth, right? So
yes.
the amount of users being on it, subtracts from that, and it might not leave much for you. So it's what a wonderful service. I don't even know if any other company that provides services like these will be able to have the hands-on, ability to help out their customers in such a way.
I was told that there was some that do something similar, but you actually have to pay for the support. And we would never do that. There's the Brimfield Fair. If you're
Right.
familiar with that, that's the biggest flea market fair, and you can go there and you can't even get a text out. It's the population goes from this small rural town, which has probably got a population of 5,000, if that.
Maybe, yeah, that
I don't
much,
even
yeah.
know if it's got 5,000, maybe
I don't
3,000,
think so, yeah.
and then it blows up to hundreds of thousands of people. and the networks just cannot handle it. So I actually haven't been there in a couple of years, but last time I was there, I was struggling to get a text out. So
Oh yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. You can go to an area where the cell tower, you can see it. It's right there, but it's overloaded because it's just getting bottlenecked and the bandwidth is just not there. So the systems are getting better every single year. I'd say every quarter to 6 months, every year, every single network's getting better. They're all upgrading.
When we met a couple of months ago, you said, "Yeah, let's try this out." And I just happened to take a good trip down to Washington D.C. My nephew is graduating from George Washington University. Congratulations, Cohen! You're an amazing young man, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. But of course, a proud uncle is going to take a lot of pictures, and we just happened to, our backdrop was the Washington Monument for the outside graduation. Absolutely spectacular. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with it. They should be if they're not. But from the Washington Monument, you can see the Lincoln Memorial, and you can also see the Capitol building. And I'm taking videos, I'm taking pictures, I'm talking to people, and just all over the place, and walking around to the White House and everything else while I'm down there. And I had hundreds of pictures, and I, several dozen videos, and I went back to the campsite that night, which is about 15 miles outside of town. And that's a nice campground, Cherry Hill Park, by the way. And I'm saying, well, I'm not going to do all this on the local Wi-Fi. So I crank out my device here that I'm going to put back on. And let's see. Yeah, so this was a device that I had, the eSIM Lite TR300, and it's a Cat 12. And my wife is streaming in video at the end of the night. She likes to use the Kindle Fire to watch YouTube TV and this and that, so she's doing that. And I'm like, okay, do I shut her down and see if this thing's gonna work or not? And I decided not to, cut her some slack. She had a long day. So I started uploading videos and pictures and this and that and the other thing. And I mean, I must have had 30 gigabytes worth of stuff on my phone.
It's a good amount.
And I'd say most of that got up easily within a half hour. So, and that was uploading. It was just one after another, pop, 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 hundreds and hundreds of photos. It was just amazing. And I was very happy with the way that whole thing worked out. And I was just saying, wow, Tony's on the ball. This company gets it done,
Well, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. It's always great to hear real world stories, because our country, it's the networks are different. You have, from rural areas to urban areas, the networks are just different. Even the same network is different from one end of the country to the other. So there's variables everywhere you go. That's just the reality of our world. But it's always nice to hear, especially that's a pretty, well, they're going to have the infrastructure in DC, but that's a populated area. And that's good. That's good to hear.
Campground too. So there was probably a lot of people streaming stuff.
That's awesome to hear.
Hey, I'd like to bring up another question that, I find customers say when I mention, hey, you should get a service like this, for your RV. And they're like, oh, no worries. I can just, make a hotspot out of my phone.
Yes.
Well, I've done that in the past, and you probably know more than I do of what the complications can be of doing that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with doing that, to use your phone as a hotspot, and it just depends. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, I got unlimited data," and some people might have some legacy plan where they have an unlimited hotspot. Now, if you have that, that's like the Willy Wonka's golden ticket.
I don't know anybody that does, but there are probably a couple out there. It's a small percentage.
Yeah, or they think they still have it, and they actually don't realize that they've actually upgraded or done something where they've technically lost that. Excuse me. I've witnessed that too. But that's a great way to try. That's the basic concept of what our devices will do. So these will do the same thing. It's like a hotspot. You turn on your phone. The only the thing that you get with this is getting multi signals from the towers, but it's also that it's a dedicated hotspot. So you typically have a limited amount of hotspot on your phone, and if you're a single user, you might have 5 gigs, 10 gigs, maybe 20 gigabytes of hotspot. And that's a good amount. That might be good if you're a weekend warrior, maybe watching one movie like on a weekend, a couple weekends here and there. But if you really want to use as an internet solution, the other thing is, like, it's hard for the rest of your family to use it. If it's just one person, that can be fine. That could be a no extra cost. You're already paying for your cell phone bill. If that works for you, that's awesome. And if we can provide a solution that's going to be better, as good or better than what you're currently using, then that's great. But if you got something that's working for you, because we've had some people that are like, I have a hotspot, gives me everything I need. That's great. We're happy for you. That's awesome.
Something happened out on the pole where we lost our fiber connection at home, right? And so I said, no problem. I'm just going to put a hotspot on my phone. And it took a couple days for them to get to repairing that line. And when I looked at my phone bill, it was completely blown out of proportion, because I was just doing the regular stuff I do, uploading video, we're streaming all our TV and all this other stuff going on. And after day one, I kind of took a look at it and said, whoa, there's something really off here. And then I called up and it's like, yeah, well, you have unlimited data, but you don't have unlimited hotspot. You have I think it was 1 gigabyte of hotspot.
Oh,
I'm like, I use that in like 20 minutes. Like, so that first day was very painful. And they're like, well, you can pay for this, tell me how many gigs you need. I'm like, well, I need like, I don't know, 15, 20 gigs a day, just to kind of get over the type of work that I do. And so it ended up being a real expensive weekend without my connection from Fidium Fiber. So yes, so please double check your plans before you do this. Yeah.
Bernie, I'm glad you actually brought that up, because that's one thing I'm proud of that we've done since 2018. Since we started in 2018, we have never had a price increase. Never had a price increase. We've had specials where we've had something where it's on sale for a little bit and that's gone back up to its normal pricing, but we've never had a price increase. And actually, at the beginning of this year, we had one of our biggest price decreases, especially for our eSIM multi-network plans and our smartphone plans. So we're really proud of that. That's something that we don't do introductory rates where the rates go up. We typically, if you have a promo code that you use with us, whenever those are available, that's like the lifetime of you keeping that device active. We'll keep that on your plans, even though they know they're getting a deal. And then 6 months, a year later, that bill goes up by 30%. Nobody wants that.
Those teaser plans are really painful.
And it's tough for us, because we try to be as straightforward and no strings attached as possible. You would never have a situation like you just had where you may use more. So there's in some people's eyes, what we do is with our eSIM solutions, if you hit your limit, say you get a 25 gig plan or a 50 gig plan, if you hit your limit, you're usually like a gig or so above that, and then your service is shut off. So that is, I guess, in some eyes, that might be the negative, but you'll never get an overage. The last thing we want to do is have you get an invoice for 2-3 times what your normal bill would be. That's not the calls we want to flag or handle.
Right.
So what we do is we have it when it hits that limit, it will shut off. Or we can look at your plan. Say you get a plan, you're not sure what you need. I don't know if I need 50 gigs, 100 gigs, whatever it is. A lot of times what we do is we'll put a little note in our calendar or have that customer contact us a week or two in. Let's see where you're at. Let's see if you need to. Let's try to start you low so we can save you some money. And if you are using more data than you thought, we can bump you up to that next level plan for the difference in price, like you bought that plan from the very beginning. We can proactively look at that before that happens. So say a week in, you got a 100 gig plan, you're at 75 gigs at a weekend, we might say, oh, you might need the 300 or 550 gig plan. And we just put you up at that plan. Sometimes people use it for a month, where we're going to be away for this month. We know the whole family is going to be out. We're going to use a lot this month. We can bump you up for that 1 month to a higher level plan, and then bring you right back down the next month for your standard plan.
You provide regular cell service like you would, for other providers, right?
Absolutely. Yes, with each individual network. So you can have a family kind of pick and choose. We don't have at the moment, we don't have technical family plans where there's a big discount for the family plan. That is something we're working towards. But what you can do is you could have one member with one network, one member with another network. So you can have
Okay.
multi networks. And I should touch on that too. That applies to everything. So if you're traveling, we always kind of look at. We've gotten some information from maybe early on. We got a lot of information from truck drivers. Truck drivers really know how to travel, and
Right.
you will find most of them would always have at minimum two services. So they may have their main line is with this network. They'll want to have a backup network so that if they ever broke down, so in some instances it could be life or death if they're
Right.
traveling in
Right.
certain areas and in the wintertime. So there is something to be said of sometimes it might be beneficial for a family or a couple to have this network for one person, this network for somebody else. That's what's nice about our multi-network plan. Not to jump back and forth on that, is that you have that. Like if you could have our CDMAV, which is the red network. You could have
Okay.
that for your cell phone plan for every member in your family. But if you have one of our multi-network internet devices, that technically anywhere in the country, it will connect to the strongest provider. So you could have broken down in a region where your phone is not working, there's no service, but one of the other networks is available. You can connect to your Wi-Fi, make a Wi-Fi call, and get a tow truck. You can make the good thing with any network is typically you can make a 911 call even if you don't have service. So if you
Yeah,
have
so all you need is like a 12-volt inverter, that you can plug your Wi-Fi booster in. So if you're traveling, bring it along with you, and then you can tie in to whatever. And like you say, Wi-Fi call. Never even thought about that.
Yeah, it's one thing when we're at our RV shows and we're talking to customers, it's one thing, especially people that are just about they're retiring, big life change, or hitting the road. That's one of the things we always kind of stress about. You can definitely go with a single network plan. We're happy to help you, but if you don't have a device already, we love the multi-network, not only for the support you get to use it for internet, but for safety. The fact you have all the major networks anywhere you go in the country. Yes, like you said, you get that inverter, so you have the ability to just connect, and
Yeah,
because
there's
you
like
can,
little adapters now. They're a piece of
yeah,
cake.
yeah. So it's really critical because if you need to make a call to AAA or you need to call a local tow truck service, but your phone doesn't work, you don't want to take a chance of having to wait for somebody to drive by. If you're on the main highways and all that, that's I love that. That was our April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
That's our why that was I dabble with a little Photoshop. We got a couple guys here. We enjoy Photoshop. So maybe one
Oh,
day,
okay. I was like,
maybe
what?
maybe one day that'll be an actual product. We'll have a Keurig Wi-Fi espresso. Um,
Oh, there you go.
but it's important for people to be safe wherever they go, and that's just something that I think a lot of people wouldn't be aware of that they could do. Especially if you panic, you break down. We do try to tell people this is something you do have the safety of having those three networks wherever you go. All you have to do is turn it on, connect with your Wi-Fi with your phone, call for a tow truck. Again, 911 should be available in any situation, but not always is 911 the call you need to make.
You know, that's really important, especially when people are traveling, right? And, you have couples that are out there, could be all by themselves, and they get into a difficult situation. Maybe nature takes a rough turn on them, or whatever it may be. They're going to have access just about anywhere they're going to be going, you
Yes.
know. And,
Yep.
for RVers, like influencer friends, I have tons of them that, people that I collaborate with constantly, and many of which are on the road, 365, and it's really important that they have a reliable service that they can count on, and it's not going to break the bank. Your cell service plans start at $22 a month. Your hotspot or your Wi-Fi booster with these eSIMs, real inexpensive, that the really nice one that you have me using right now for $249. That's a great deal. Tony, I want to thank you for spending time with us today. There's so much to learn, but the best way to do it is to get in touch with Tony and his team at pulsecellular.com. And that wraps up another episode of RV Game Changer. If you're looking for some incredible phone and Wi-Fi plan options to support your RV adventures, look no further than Pulse Cellular. And remember to follow RV Game Changer for more fascinating interviews. And until next time, keep the wheels rolling and the adventures unfolding. Have a spectacular day, everybody, and God bless. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Really appreciate it. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Today's episode of RV Game Changer is brought to you by RVing Today TV. If you're looking for RV Game Changer or anything to do with RVing and camping, you'll bet you'll find it on RVing Today TV. Visit rvingtoday.tv, where you'll find a list of stations and networks carrying their shows, along with additional stories, news, and contests. To get a hold of me, go to RV Game Changer on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Have a great day and God bless.